Now with me in the studio, Professor David Aworawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos, and Jide Ologun, legal practitioner, National Development Advocate, and Fellow, Institute of Leadership Coaching and Strategy. Gentlemen, good to see you. Well, quickly, we have had 3 guests. We started with Mr. Fela, SAN, who commented on this electoral amendment bill, 2022 process, which looks like, the National Assembly seems to be playing games with Nigerians. And they seem to agree that the whole exercise is a waste of time because what they are doing can be resolved within a week. They don't have to be setting up committees upon committees. He also talked about the alleged military coup and why the matter should be tried in civilian courts and not by way of a court-martial in line with the law and the dispensation, and that, the allegation is even a contravention, a violation of the rights of the sovereign people of Nigeria. And then, of course, we touched briefly on the spate of demolitions of waterfront, premises, locations in the state of Lagos. And he said, well, the Lagos state government has not gone about it the right way. And they're thinking that, people who protest should be punished is also wrong in the eyes of the law. The job of the police, he said, is to protect the people, even if they are protesters. Now we had the Yoruba Tennis Club, chairman, vice chairman. Yoruba Tennis Club is 100 years old this year, 1926 to 2026. And we dwelt on the, the history of the club, the legacy, the emphasis of the club, how it is a hub for creative ideas. And, both gentlemen, chairman and vice chairman, had a lot to say about the history and legacy of their club. And then finally, we had Umar Sani, a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, talking about the decision of the Federal High Court sitting in Ibadan, Court of Justice Agamo, saying that the National Working Committee of the PDP, led by Kabiru Turaki SAN, is an illegal body, and that the convention held in Ibadan, bringing that NWC to power, was illegal, unconstitutional, null and void. And Omar Sani was saying that, look, courts should not inquire into the internal affairs of political parties, bar a standing Supreme Court decision. Let me start with you, Professor Aworawo.
Thank you very much. I would like to go in the order in which the guests presented the ideas, beginning with Femi Falana San. He commented on a number of issues, beginning with the amendment of the Electoral Act. And his position that it seems that the legislators are playing games. They don't want the amendment to see light of day before the election holds. We still have quite some time to the election, and one will expect that they will do the needful, even though from the way they have approached the issue, it seems they are not enthused about the amendment.
But it's a time-bound exercise.
Yes, and that is the point, that it seems you are full dragging, and after a while it will be said that we'll wait for the next election cycle. Recall that under former President Buhari, there was also an amendment like this, the amendment that will have mandated INEC to transmit elections from the polling booth. And, that one was passed, but the president full dragged, and the thing never saw light of day. In fact, the same President Buhari was correcting the T's and the I's and the rest of them. But people close to me, told me that you want the man to sign himself out of office. Yes, I'm saying this with all sense of responsibility. That if they transmit all the results from this thing, if the thing doesn't favor the man, so the man will sign himself out of office. It seems there's a replica of that playing out now, that people are not sure of what will happen if there is no loophole to exploit, we drag on issues like this. So, but our position is that they should do the needful so that we can have, our elections are not the best. And whatever can be done to ensure that they are freer and fairer and more credible will be welcome. So I'm joining Femi Falana's son to appeal. He was not even appealing, he was saying that they should do the needful. But I'm appealing that they should do the needful so that we can have better elections. I will jump to the demolitions. The demolitions are brought onto hardship to people. You could say, well, some of them were there, are they illegally and all that, but these are human beings first and foremost. And those who govern must understand the humanity we share. And then secondly, these are very poor people that need protection. I'm a bit surprised that Governor Sanwo-Olu decided to go this direction. It's not too late to still do something for the poor who are affected. We should always think about legacy. See the way Femi Falana spoke. He said, when Babaki Kere, Jakonde, when there were people who were to be moved from one place to another, arrangement was made for them to be moved so that they will not suffer. We are remembering Babaki Kere for that right now. Now, this demolition that has not followed that systematic approach that people are suffering, how will we remember Governor Sanwo-Olu? It is that you should look at, not whatever anybody is saying about grandstanding, about, let's drive them away, urban renewal. Urban renewal is about people. And people, those affected now are also people. A systematic approach to all of these things that would reduce, suffering of people to the barest minimum is the best approach. And that is the approach for which people will be remembered in the long run. It's not too late. I mean, people are still there to see how, to meet them halfway. You also talk about Morocco. I was just reading about Morocco, recently about Raji Razaki that had no regrets, that there was crime in the place and all that. If there is crime, you tackle the crime and all that. So I don't think the approach that the government has adopted is the best, and the government can still do a lot better to meet the needs of the people while carrying out urban renewal. Then the Yoruba Tennis Club, I'm very happy for them. They've been 100 years. They've done well. They've been able to, they shifted away from those who were discriminating against them, established their own club, which has grown in leaps and bounds. Incidentally, the first generation of those who suffered that, Thomas Babington Macaulay, John Randall, were the parents of the second generation who founded the Yoruba Tennis Club, J.K. Randall, Herbert Macaulay, and the rest of them. Herbert Macaulay was, a supporter of indigenous culture, indigenous governance. Remember the Eleko case. It was Herbert Macaulay that pursued the case to a logical conclusion and supported Eshibaye Eleko, then the king of Lagos, who was exiled to Oyo. And of course, when the case was to be won, Eshibaye Eleko came back and took over again and took over his, the throne again as the king of Lagos. So I'm happy for them that, they are focused on culture, they are focused on, serious intellectual engagement. It reminds one of the salons in Europe, 15th, 16th, 17th centuries and all, where people discuss matters of the moment, matters that matter to society, and shared ideas that ultimately transform society. They spent the first 100 years, and I'm also happy that they are reinventing themselves. They mentioned about the next generation, taking over, seeing what the needs are and adjusting accordingly. I congratulate them and I wish them all the best for this celebration and, of course, for their projections for the future. Finally, the PDP issue. I'll just limit myself to the case. Because PDP people defer themselves to logical conclusion, exposing themselves to what has happened. But I'll just limit myself to the case. I agree almost, not entirely with him, at least to some extent with him, that we have had judgments, of course, that sometimes we wonder how the judge arrived at, his ruling. And there seems to be a pattern. All cases involving Wike, he seems to win. And there seems to be even the courts going beyond what was, even Supreme Court. The case of, the case of Rivers, the lawmakers, of whether they should remain lawmakers or not, that case was not before the Supreme Court. The case before the Supreme Court was whether the government has the right to hold the allocation of rivers. But the court just jumped into the matter, and which is against Section 109 of the Constitution, which has a replica in Section 68 for those in the National Assembly, that if you defect, you lose your seat. So that is one section of the Constitution that the courts have helped us to abandon. You can now just decamp and nothing happens. And that is because the courts have consistently not bothered. And when that happens, we become very disturbed. Fortunately, there are other levels, and the PDP should just, they should not disrupt society. They should not be lawless in saying, I'm happy you drew the attention of the guests to the fact that I cannot say the judgment does not exist. It does exist. That would be a recipe for anarchy. There are other layers to exploit. They're exploiting it. They should just stick to what is provided for in the law, and hopefully reason will prevail at the higher courts.
Mr. Ologun.
Thank you, Doctor. With the Electoral Act amendment, I recall that during the tenure of former President Muhammadu Buhari, this matter also dragged on for a long time. And my concern is that if you look at Section 4 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, it says that the National Assembly is mandated to make law for the peace, orderliness, and good government in Nigeria. And if that is the driving force, the zeal will be there. The speed will be given to amending these laws to meet the yearnings of the people. I am still also not happy with the fact that INEC is giving discretion on this live transmission of results. Globally speaking, the standard is that elections should be free, fair, credible, and transparent. And anything we can do in that direction, why not? And if we have invested in all these beavers and IREF, then why do we also open a door for not allowing them to help us? There are private institutions that embark on even e-voting. We are not even talking of e-voting now. So when we even begin to discuss e-voting, what will happen with the politicians that are making the laws? And from their own angle, of course, I expect that they will also sit down to see how are we going to be affected by this, because have we driven our electoral processes to a point where it is clean, where there are no vote buying or selling anymore, or snatching of ballot boxes, or committing some of those offenses? Because for me, if you talk about, escalating the penalties, it may not be the big deal for some of them. I mean, from 500,000 to 5 million. An average politician in Nigeria, we throw 5 million on the table. And I'm very much happy that the learned Silk, Femi Falana, emphasized the issue of implementation. We have some existing laws. How well have we implemented them? Some of the recent elections in Nigeria, we had reports of 25 billion naira found with somebody and some of them came out, so it was for party officials. We must begin to enforce our laws. And on whether this amendment will come at the appropriate time before the next election, the Learned Silk is pessimistic about that, but I'm just advising the National Assembly that all eyes are on you. I've always said that it's only God Almighty that won't leave office. You leave his office one day. So what will be your legacy, like Professor Aworawo mentioned? And that brings us to the Makoko case. It's a very sad case. And sometimes people wonder that some of the things we inherited from the colonialists, because I have argued that basically some of the practices of the colonialists, even in setting up the police and things like that, just to protect their businesses. When I was in law school, between 1988 and 1999, it was Morocco Sandfield from CMS. And suddenly, these Morocco people were displaced for some reasons given. And eventually, the land got shared by the high and mighty. And that suspicion is still there. When I saw the Oworawo area being Sandfield under former Governor Ambode, I smiled when I was driving by. And I predicted that someday something will happen here. And I just want us to know that this country belongs to us. And if we talk about urban renewal, it's a great deal. But I've been to some countries like in the UK, in the US, you find them even telling you, we must preserve this monument because of the historical values and everything. And beyond that, the public relations angle of stakeholders management. How are you going to settle these people? The same way some people brought some bandits to this country and made several promises to them and abandoned them. They are, you see, so how are you going to settle them? Even some of those who were displaced from Morocco till now, some of them died of high blood pressure, many families displaced. So how we advise the government? It appears, and that is the perception the citizens have, that the government appears like they have monopoly of pressure and they can disperse and things like that. But that will not suppress the yearnings of the people. So please, go back, look at how you can practice government with human face. And it's enshrined in Section 17 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, because it's all this we rub off on the image and reputation of the country, particularly when it comes to human rights preservation and respect. And that brings us to Yoruba Club. I'm so happy. And when we see some of these achievements, we say there is hope for the country. You know, some who rose up and said, no, let's set up our own identity and move away from the repression of colonialists or whoever are trying to say we cannot make it happen. And that reminds me of the story of this jazz music that people enjoy a lot. I understand it came out from those who were taken away to the plantations to go and work as slaves. And after rounding up the day, they start beating their plates with their cutleries to sing and rejoice. You know, Africans know how to do that. And their master will be saying, oh, they're playing, what are they doing? They're playing jazz. And that jazz has been developed to a classical music across the world. So it's a story of, you know, rebranding our experiences to present a very vibrant offerings. And I'm glad that it's been sustained for 100 years and the focus is still on sustainability, getting younger ones and brilliant minds to be part of it. So we say congratulations to them. And Dr. Abbas, if you permit me to congratulate Ondo State. Ondo State is 50 years.
Ondo State is also 50 years.
Yeah,
Your state is also 50 years.
So I congratulate my governor, Governor Lucky Ayedachiwa. So, and more celebrations to come. So for PDP, it's so interesting. And when it comes to these law issues, sometimes it may be advisable that we also sit back, read some of the pronouncements. You know, the court also is saying that that convention was carried out without respect to some subsisting orders of the court. And the argument is that it's a family affair. So why go to court? So I think the judiciary must be very careful. It was a tough war for us to persuade the people that the judiciary is not the one electing leaders in Nigeria because they say it's not judiciary. That no, when the processes cannot be fine-tuned to respect the mandate of the law, then parties will go to court. The judiciary must be very careful. And for PDP, put your house in order, you know. And again, let me advise PDP. When Wike and the G4, other G4, making G5, were out to frustrate Atiku, I was asking myself, where's the constitution of this party? How can some people just rise up and say, we are going to discredit our party to support another candidate? And it appeared as if some people are mightier and heavier than the constitution. So here we are right now. You know, that even in the state of Makinde himself, one of the G5s, the court is saying all you did has been nullified. But like Prof mentioned, we have the appeal court, and I understand a step has been taken to upscale it to the appeal court. So I wish the PDP, you know, even when I'm wishing the PDP the best, with the gale of defections and what we are seeing in the electoral space, you know, I wish PDP the best, you know.
Okay, let's take another subject, which is that the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria has renewed its call for the removal of the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Joash Amopitan, ahead of the 2027 general election, describing him as a threat to the credibility of Nigeria's democratic process. The council warned that Muslims will neither recognize nor legitimize any election conducted under Amukuiton's leadership, citing what it described as serious integrity and neutrality concerns. The president of the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria, Sheikh Bashir Umar, said the council's stance was based on what he described as the INEC chairman's questionable antecedents, particularly illegal brief he allegedly authored suggesting the existence of Christian genocide in Nigeria, a claim the federal government has repeatedly dismissed. Let me come back to you very quickly, Mr. Ologun.
It is not for the religious bodies to legitimize elections that are conducted in Nigeria, constitutionally speaking. So if this is just a way of, okay, hear our voice, pay attention to our concerns, perhaps that can fly. So I think a different approach should be brought into it. Definitely, whoever is appointed to occupy that office must belong to a religion, either Christianity or Islam or traditional religion. And if there are grievances, I think it should perhaps be addressed to Donald Trump, who is claiming that Christians are being killed. And on the platform of public relations, considering image and a reputation, are these things happening in Nigeria? Those are questions to be asking. So I think efforts should be directed at ensuring the safety of lives and properties in the country. I mean, the constitutional procedure is that the president nominates a candidate, forwards that nomination to the Senate, and it's been confirmed. So, but too bad, it's one of the fundamental human rights to protest, but I really cannot put my hand on something concrete to be achieved through that.
Prof?
I agree entirely with Barrister Ologun. There is nothing concrete to be achieved through that. And whoever will occupy the position must belong to one religion. Even the issue they've raised regarding, what the new INEC chair has stated regarding how Christians have been treated in Nigeria before. Incidentally, what he said is true. Is anybody still denying the reality of Christians being targeted and killed in Nigeria? I mean, even with recent developments, is that still in doubt? So the man simply stated the obvious fact. And like I've said before, many non-state actors are killing people in Nigeria. Some are killing both Christians and Muslims. Some are targeting Christians specifically. That fact is indisputable. And so even the Supreme Council is not even being honest and even being disrespectful of those who are being killed. The focus should be on how to get government to protect everybody, Christian, Muslim, everybody else. So that should be the focus. But their position may have one advantage, may put the chairman under pressure to ensure that there is fairness. If there is any value in their position, if it's able to get the INEC chairperson to pay more attention to equity, fairness in the way INEC conducts the elections moving forward, that would just be the only good thing in their position. But everything else simply doesn't make sense, so to speak, because even the issue they raised what the man said is factual. He simply stated the facts. So, but we encourage the INEC chair to be fair, to ensure that people's vote counts, and whoever has been elected emerges winner.
Okay. Well, let's take something that is something we can be very cheerful and proud of. Afrobeats legend Fela Kuti has become the first African to be given the Grammy's Lifetime Achievement Award. The late music icon will be posthumously honored at the 2026 Grammy Awards, nearly 3 decades after his passing at the age of 58. In fact, he was honored on Saturday, yesterday. Fela was born Olufela Olusegun Oludotun Ransom Kuti in 1938 in Abeokuta, Ogun State. His introduction to music came early, learning piano and drums while also leading the school choir. By the 50s, he moved to London to study medicine, but attended Trinity College of Music, Dublin, instead. In the 60s, he formed a band called Kula Lubitos, pioneering a unique sound called Afrobeat, which became renowned for combining highlife, jazz, funk, and traditional Yoruba music.
Animal must talk to human beings. Give them human rights. I beg you, make you hear me very well. I beg you, make you hear me very well. Go someone to the shake, oh my nothing without water. Go someone to the shake, oh my
Okay, who do I start with? Who's the Fela, fan here? Let me start with you. Okay, Prof. Let me start with you.
Well, Fela, avant-garde, iconoclast. Some would say deviant, but yeah, a man who just was in a class of his own, Abamieda himself, as some call him. This award, Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award is welcome. It will further bring fresh memories of Fela's many parts, and of course his music, fight for freedom, human rights. Those are the things that stand out. So the fact that this is coming at this time and bringing fresh interest in Fela and his music and his message is very welcome. Fela's message are timeless. You were just talking about water, get enemy, and several others. He's the one who has the capacity to say things that everybody else was afraid of saying. And he was harassed and, oppressed, if you like, for the position he maintained. But he did contribute to, that aspect, human rights, freedom, government, holding government to account. So he was at the forefront of all of that. And, of course, his music continues to attract attention. Many, many years, 3 decades after his death, 4 or 5 decades after the songs were sung. So we congratulate him and we rejoice with all those who associate with the Fela brand.
Mr. Ologun.
Let me start by saying KKKG. Doctor, respond. Fela lived, and this is a man who found his love and pursued it, he studied medicine at a time. And I congratulate the family for this award that has been given to him.
You congratulate Egbaland, you congratulate Ogun State, you congratulate.
Absolutely, the Lisabi people. And one thing that endeared me to Fela was his boldness to call for governance accountability. I still remember the international chief. He held the government to render account. But like you said, the suffering and smiling continues. And I know my wonderful nephew in the US, Tuni, will be celebrating now. He's one Fela fan that is unrepentant, And of course, this will put to rest, hopefully, some arguments going on recently online. Who is powerful or influential in the Afrobeat space? So congratulations to the Anikulapo Kuti.
Finally,
Nigeria.
Congratulations, those diamonds who put Nigeria on the map globally. And Fela Anikulapo Kuti was in a special category of his own. Now, South Africa and Israel have expelled each other as top diplomats in what is the latest diplomatic row between the two countries. It began with South Africa accusing Israel's envoy of insulting President Cyril Ramaphosa and violating protocol, and Israel has also retaliated by expelling South Africa's senior diplomat. In a statement issued on Friday, South Africa's Department of International Relations and Cooperation accused the chargé d'affaires at the Israeli embassy, Ariel Seidman, of using social media platforms to attack its president, Cyril Ramaphosa, and inviting Israeli officials to the country without permission. Tension between South Africa and Israel intensified after South Africa filed a genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice in late 2023. Well, very briefly, Mr. Ologun and then Prof.
I hope they reconcile their differences, because the two countries have declared the representatives of each other as persona non grata, which in Latin means unwelcome personality. So it's part of the international relations games that is going on right now. And Israel still remains adamant in hitting back at anything or anybody that hits Israel. But by and large, issues must be addressed. And under the concept of complete relations, I wish them the best.
Prof, briefly.
Well, they should halt it. These are countries, both countries that have, similar experiences. The Jews under Hitler, the South Africans under apartheid. There are two countries whose citizens have suffered tremendously from oppression. They should look at each other from that point of view, halt it, and see how they can mend fences so they can restore diplomatic relations once again.
Okay, looks like Israel is trying to imitate the United States, or is it the other way around? Anyway, thank you very much, Professor Aworawo. Thank you also, Mr. Ologun. You've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. From my entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching.